Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Real quick before we get into this video, a couple announcements. The new release schedule for the unboxings. Next Monday we are hopefully getting in a giant package of premium packs for Saiyan Showdown. There's still a bunch of Saiyan Showdown cards that I don't have. I wanted to revisit it. And you all really seemed to love the last premium pack unboxing. If you've never seen the premium packs before, they're really cool. And when you buy like a whole case, they come in like this really fancy looking, like it looks premium. It's just like this solid black, super shiny box. I love it. And then the Monday after next, we're going to hopefully be unboxing the brand new Digimon set Dimensional Phase, I think is what it's called, featuring some of my favorite Digimon from some of my favorite Digimon games, Digimon World 3 and Digimon World Redigitize on the PSP. So hopefully both of my shipments get here on time because I would love to do both those videos sequentially. If not, I do have some more content planned. But today I wanted to talk about the Dragon Ball Super card game online, the new client coming in 2023, hopefully. We haven't gotten a release date, but I'm pretty sure they said it's going to come out this year, with more information happening in March. March 4th and 5th are going to be the Dragon Ball Battle Hour, where they talk like Dragon Ball video games and, of course, the Dragon Ball card game. So I imagine we're going to get, hopefully, like a live demo, and we get to see some more of the cards. We got to see a little bit of the cards that are in the trailer, or at least I'm assuming they wouldn't put cards that won't be in the game in the trailer. I imagine those are all the leader cards that are going to be available upon release, hopefully. So I've been delving into online trading card game clients behind the scenes here on the channel. I did put up some Pokemon TCG Live videos that didn't really go anywhere. And then we did a couple live streams of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. I've also been looking into Hearthstone, Magic the Gathering Arena, amongst some like tutorial apps here and there. And I think just given all of the information, like what I've seen that is similar amongst all of these and what I have seen are like popular features and what the communities are saying about those TCG clients, I think even though we only have this little snippet right here, this picture, I think this picture reveals enough for me and maybe any other like seasoned online TCG player. I think this gives us enough information to kind of like gauge what we're going to see in March and what we can expect at release. So let's all get our cork boards set up and go ahead and follow along with your own red yarn as I connect all the dots. So first thing I want to look at, I want to start with the obvious here, Goku and Vegeta. So if you are unfamiliar with online trading card game clients like Magic the Gathering and Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, you have these little guys on the side. So like in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, I have my little Dark Magician, he hangs out with you. I don't think these are that. I think these are the leader cards. So I could be wrong, but I think all of those leader cards we saw at the beginning, Boo, Frieza, Vegeta, the different Gokus, I think those are all going to be the little guys that sit next to you in the arena, and each of them is going to have their own attack animation. Like you can see here, Goku is doing his Kamehameha way. Obviously, Vegeta, that looks like base Vegeta down there. He's going to do a Gallic Gun whenever he goes to attack you to check life. And, or at least that's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm like assuming. I am hoping, because I think that would be like really cool if they all like at launch, you know, you had all these leader cards, they all had their own little buddy that sits next to you instead of just being represented by a card, and they all had their own attack animations that happen whenever you go to check life. I think that would be really cool. And I think that's plausible. Now, this assumption, like many of the assumptions I am making, are based off of three factors. First being that Bandai is a big pop culture-esque company that cares for a ton of IPs, and in my opinion, I think they take really good care of those IPs outside of Digimon obviously being their redheaded stepchild that they don't want to be profitable. But that's a whole different video. Secondly, they're no stranger to video games, and third, they are definitely not a stranger to card games. They have been in the card game space for a very long time. If you guys didn't know, you can just Google like Bandai card games. There's an entire wiki page dedicated to all the card games that they come out with. So given those three factors, I'm kind of getting my hopes up higher than what anyone would have expected with like Pokemon Online. The live client for Pokemon Online is absolute garbage. It is bottom of the barrel. But then you look at like Master Duel, which in my opinion is like the apex of TCG clients. I definitely think that Dragon Ball Super is going to fall somewhere in the middle because Bandai is also, in my opinion, very budget conscious when it comes to creating new products. And this is definitely something they've never done before. So I imagine that this is going to be their test. This is going to be them sticking their foot in the water to see like what they should do, what they shouldn't do, what they can do differently, and more importantly, whether or not it's actually going to be profitable. Because of that, I don't think they're going to take a ton of risk when it comes to anything outside of the card game, which I guess is a great segue into the next thing you want to look at here, which is the arena, the setting. So all of my favorite TCG clients, like Magic the Gathering and Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, they have all of these variations of places where you play the card game as this neat little flavor, to whereas like Pokemon TCG Live, you're kind of just playing on this like weird piece of plastic that floats in the middle of nowhere, and it's like the same thing over and over again. I think this arena is possibly going to be the only arena, and I say that because I thought originally this was going to be an iconic arena from the anime or a video game in the past, but I did a lot of digging. So at first, I thought this was where Goku fought Pikkon. That is not the case. This is not that arena at all. And then I thought it was the arena from BoJack Returns. It's not that arena either. So correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but this looks like it's original. And if that's the case, I don't think we can expect the sort of Magic the Gathering treatment where you play the game in like a different setting every time. And I don't think we can expect the Yu-Gi-Oh! Treatment where you can just buy all of these different cool looking boards. I think this is the arena that you play in every time. And this is kind of nitpicky for me personally. Like, this is just my opinion. I don't like that. I really prefer the sort of like Magic the Gathering or the Yu-Gi-Oh! Style where you're not playing in the same space every time, or like Hearthstone, where you have all those different places where you're playing the card game. Again, it's nitpicky. It's not a deal breaker. I just love to see that kind of like production value. And I don't know too much about game design or game development, but I feel like that's a fairly easy thing to accomplish. But again, I'm remembering that Bandai is going to remain budget conscious. They're going to do as much as they possibly can with as little resources as they can, because they've never done this before. Just kind of like putting myself into their shoes as they sort of like navigate these new waters. But definitely correct me in the comment section if I'm wrong, if this is something from, if this is like a setting from the anime or somewhere. Let me know down in the comments, because if that's the case, then I do think that, or at least I would love to see, I think that every time you go to play the card game against an opponent, you're playing in a new arena. Like maybe at one point you're playing in the Cells game arena. Maybe at another point you're playing in the Shin Budokai arena. Let me know down in the comments if you recognize this, because if so, then that's probably the case. But if this is unrecognizable, I imagine that this is just going to be like the only place where the card game takes place, which again, isn't a deal breaker. It's just like a little nitpicky thing. The other thing that I want to draw attention to is the fire around the arena. So you can see here 2 red fires, and then you can see a blue fire. I think that these fires are going to signal to the player what color deck is being played. So obviously this is going to be like a red Goku deck playing against a blue Vegeta deck. But also, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't been like playing the Dragon Ball Super card game for a long time. I've mostly just been collecting. So is there a blue Vegeta card in those original sets? Which I think is another good transition, the word original sets. Because the other thing that I want you to notice isn't necessarily what's here, but what is not here. If you have been playing the Dragon Ball Super card game at all, you kind of notice there's no Z deck area. And you know, you could assume that it's like off to the side somewhere, or maybe it's just like not present in this little snippet. But I actually think that there is no Z deck. And I say that this is not only going to launch without a Z deck, I think it's also going to launch without Unison cards. I think what we are going to get, as far as like breadth of cards, right? Like how many cards are we going to get? I think we're looking specifically at the base set, but the base set of cards with possibly like a limited and a restricted list that differs from what we got in real life. And I say this for a few reasons. The first reason, and it's pretty obvious, this online client, like many online clients, is meant to make the game more appealing and approachable to newcomers who have not kept up for the past 5 years. I think that Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel is a really great example of this. As a Yu-Gi boomer myself, I hadn't played Yu-Gi-Oh! Since 2005. I had no interest in playing it because it seems so complicated now. But knowing that there was an online TCG client, like, first of all, I could screw up and try new things without the possibility of embarrassing myself in front of another human being who obviously knows way more than me. And two, with it being a video game, I can't accidentally screw up, right? I can't like resolve a card the wrong way. I can't misinterpret some card text in front of a group of people, which would be very embarrassing. So it like made it more approachable. And after like 2 weeks, I am now playing OTK decks. So when I keep in mind the idea that these games are intentionally designed to bring on newcomers, I look at the current state of the game, the current meta, being kind of fast-paced, being like really hard-hitting, in my opinion. I think we're going to go back to a much slower meta, just the basics, a lot of vanilla cards. When this launches, because they're going to make it more appealing to newcomers, and they'll introduce slowly over time Unisons and Z cards and other things later on down the road. But the second thing that I kind of want to circle back to is the idea of a standard format that is different from what the standard format was at the time of Dragon Ball Super launching 5 years ago. Because the other thing they want to do is give veteran players a new fun experience based off of the things they probably didn't know way back then when they were launching the card game. Now they have this better understanding of how we play the card game, how we build decks. And so typically what we see, like Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, I'm going to just use that as another example. Their ban list and restricted list is different from the ban list and restricted list that you would see in the real world Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG. And that's because they want veteran players to have some kind of incentive to go play the online client. They want like it to be a different experience. And so you're going to see wildly different decks in the meta version of the, or not the meta version, but the digital version meta than you would see in the real life meta. And so I think we're going to see the same thing with the Dragon Ball Super card game launching. I think it's not going to launch with all of the original cards that we got in real life, but instead like a very specific set of cards that gives you the Dragon Ball Super card game that you were playing 5 years ago, but in a different way, like in a different experience. The next thing that I want to note is how if you look at the sides of the ring where they're kind of damaged, I think that's where the life cards are going to be. We've seen this in, again, Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, where when damage is being done to the opponent or yourself, the arena starts to see damage, it starts to collapse, it starts to break. I think that's what those cracks in the arena are. So I think when you start a game, it's going to be a clean arena, but then as you're like doing damage to each other and you're like, you know, throwing these Kamehameha waves and Kai blasts everywhere, you're going to start to see that damage happen. Some other small things to note, I'm not seeing any energy in that back row there. So I'm assuming that instead of like Magic the Gathering, where you have the back row for your lands and you have to like actually tap your lands, which is like so annoying to me. You have to actually tap your lands before playing something. It's gonna look more like the tutorial app where you just say this card in my hand is now becoming energy. It disappears and is just signified by like a number, probably in like the bottom left hand of the screen, and energies automatically tap themselves. And finally, this is definitely a leap, but I don't think there are going to be any kind of cosmetic items. So in most online TCG clients, even Pokemon TCG Live, you can purchase things like deck cases, card sleeves, coins and dice, you know, specific to you. And then of course you have your little buddy on the side who is cosmetic. I'm making this assumption because of my previous assumptions. One, I think this Goku and this Vegeta, they're not cosmetic items, they are your leader cards. And two, it doesn't look like there are any kind of variations in the arenas where you're playing. Because of those two assumptions, I think there's not going to be any cosmetics. I mean, I hope that I'm wrong, because this is like another like nitpicky thing. Like I'm not saying like it's gonna kill the deal, like, oh, I can't choose my card sleeves. Obviously I'm not gonna download, this is garbage. But it is just kind of like a nitpicky thing that as a player I would love to be able to experience. But other than the fact that it doesn't look like you can purchase arenas, and it doesn't look like you're gonna get a new buddy on the sidelines outside of whatever leader card it is you have, I think it's a leap to assume. But also, again, I'm just keeping in mind that Bandai is probably going to, and I hope this isn't the case, but they're probably just going to release a very like bare bones kind of like open beta, kind of like Pokemon TCG Live, that it gets the job done and hopefully is of much higher quality than Pokemon TCG Live. But I mean, they're really not setting the bar too high over there. So I think that's a good way to transition into like what I'm hoping happens. So like I'm hoping there's cosmetics, but something that is going to be a deal breaker, a really big thing for me that is going to be a deal breaker if it's not in there: variations in the format in which you can play the game. So if you are unfamiliar with the current state, or like where the bar is set as far as trading card game clients online are concerned, Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel and Magic the Gathering Arena, I think, are some really good examples where you can obviously use the client to play the game online against other people, but there are other formats in which you can play the game. So you have your standard format where you know like all of the basic rules, and you're being told like, all right, these cards you can use, but these cards can't be used this season. We're probably going to change some things up, and then the cards that you can use next season will be different. So in order to keep people on the platform as long as possible, they kind of switch things up. And so with Magic the Gathering Arena, draft is huge in Magic the Gathering Arena. So basically a new set comes out, and then you can pay a little bit of in-game currency to get a bunch of random cards from that new set. You get to keep the random cards after, and then you have to build a deck as best you can with this hodgepodge of new cards, and then you have to play like bracket style a tournament against other people. If you can make it further in the tournament, you get extra packs from that new set, but if not, you at least get to keep all of the cards that you got in order to make this new deck. And then of course Magic the Gathering also does like other variations of the format, but I really want to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel for that, because Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel does this really cool thing called the Duel Room, where you can make your own format of Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's so interesting to see the kinds of things that people can do. And you can go into the Duel Room and you can just like watch matches where people are like, hey, we're playing a game that's no trap cards, or like we're playing a game that is only like monsters from like these two sets and nothing else. It's really cool and it's really interesting, and I think it's a creative solution for like, because Magic the Gathering Arena, they're having to like make up all these different formats on their own. I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Was like, look, we're gonna have one event like every 3 months, and then you guys, you can just like make your own formats, right? Like we're not gonna worry about that. So a really big deal breaker for me, which is why I stopped playing Pokemon Online TCG, is like whether or not there's anything that I can do outside of the standard format of the game. Like, obviously, I am going to log in at least like once or twice a week to play this game, to climb the ladder. But if climbing ladder in competitive or casual is the only thing that I can do, if there's nothing else for me to do outside of the standard format, I'm going to get bored very quickly. And I think everyone else is too. So that's going to be the real deal breaker for me, is if there is no draft, if there is no like event where like you play the game differently. You play like a different format where it's like, oh, we're only using Saiyan leader cards. Like, oh, we're only using, I don't know, we're only using like red cards and blue cards. I don't know. I hope they can come up with something, but I think I would really love, especially as like a new TCG client that is being launched, I would love a draft format. because I mean, I personally am going to be spending a ton of money on this when it first launches, and so I would love just an easy and fun, an interactive way, if you will, an interactive way to gain new cards that is something other than just like opening digital packs. But anyway, guys, that is it for me. Tell me down in the comments what you think about my predictions. Like I said, we're going to learn more here in just a few weeks, so I'm kind of putting this out on the internet to see how correct I am. I'm just trying to like test my skills of deduction as I've sort of like connected all the red yarn on the corkboard here. But let me know what you think. Let me know all of your thoughts and your hopes and your dreams about the new Dragon Ball card game client. But also, let me know what you think about my predictions. Do you think that I'm like completely full of crap and I have no idea what I'm talking about? Am I a big dumb baby? Or am I a super sleuth? Are you like, wow, Nikki, you cracked the code. That is exactly it. Let me know everything down in the comments below, and like I said at the beginning, if you aren't subscribed, hit that subscribe button, because there are a butt ton of you that keep coming back to the channel, and you know, I want to take our relationship to the next level, right? I want you and I to finally commit and hit that notification bell. Anyway, see you guys next week, where we hopefully unbox some premium packs of Saiyan Showdown, and I'll see you the week after, where we hopefully unbox the brand new Digimon cards. And that's it. Bye, guys.